Could the situation have got out of hand to the extent that it is, so to get to the state that it was, without the influence of some sort of, whether you want to call it third force, or at the very least the sort of tacit support by omission that we seem to have observed coming through from the lack of state response coming through, particularly from the police force?
So the initial kind of wave of unrest that we saw, when you have a mass of people together, you have socioeconomic desperation, and there was always this heightened potential for this to descend into, acts of looting and acts of criminality. But usually what we see in these situations is quite swift containment by the state security apparatus. And this was certainly missing during the latest wave of unrest. And more conspicuous was the fact that it was absent amid a growing threat of unrest. And I think that, you've got this initial critical mass of people out there, a mass gathering that is got strong political undertones, degenerating, that is certainly within the baseline kind of, risk profile for gatherings of this nature in South Africa. And then when it reaches that critical point, we see police intervention, we see rapid containment measures being employed. But this wasn't the case in South Africa. This unrest in KZN was allowed to kind of swell without any forms of intervention. There were actually just calls for, greater participation, within the unrest. And then from, going from stores to stores, which are generally, facilities that would be targeted in this unrest, to start, targeting strategic infrastructure. That, I believe, is where we saw a definite deviation in what would be ordinary or routine or baseline outbreaks of social unrest in South Africa. And I guess at the point where there was the escalation to, strategic infrastructure, is the point where one has to question, how much of an external force was driving or had harnessed the initial grievances of individuals and now directing it either directly, to start, targeting certain strategic infrastructure, but also, more indirectly, I guess, with a lack of a coordinated police response, from a more grassroots or localized level.